I have a degree in molecular biology from the University of Waterloo.
You worked in a virology lab.
Yes.
So a lot of conspiracy theories goes around that COVID strain was made in a virology lab in Wuhan. What is your take on it? Was it actually, can it be actually made? Can a virus like this be actually made? Because what we've understood in India, Ayurveda is not just about medicines, it's a way of life as well. The time you eat, what time you sleep, when you wake up, what all exercises you do, breath work, whatever you do. So Ayurveda basically teaches you an art of living, right? That's what we've read by far.
Till what extent it's possible that we can make a clone of a human?
I don't think there have been any human cloning experiments yet, but could we clone them? Probably. We possibly could do it. I don't see why not.
So how's the Delhi weather? Are you feeling cold?
Honestly, it's not too bad for me because right now in Canada it's -20. So it's like plus 30 degrees here, which is nice. So I'm not feeling too cold.
A little warmer for you.
Huh?
It's a little warmer for you.
Yeah, it's a little warmer for me, thankfully.
और यहाँ पे इतनी ठंड लग रही है.
यहाँ आपकी जैकेट मेरे पास है.
Okay. So Menka, I just wanted to know कि what are your profession? What you are doing over in Canada?
Yes, absolutely. So I have a degree in molecular biology from the University of Waterloo. And after doing it, I was a little confused on what I wanted to do with my degree. So for a few years, I worked as a patient coordinator in a hospital. And then during COVID, I realized and discovered that science communication is a field. Shall we?
My bad.
Should I wait? Okay. I realized that science communication was also a field, and I am currently now doing my master's in science communication. I also have a TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube page where I talk about a lot of science topics, new things that are happening in science, science concepts, but I make it easy for people to understand because I realized that science is it can be challenging for people that are not in it, and even people that are in it, it can be challenging for them too. So that's what I do now. I communicate science.
As you just said that you simplify things for the common people. So I just wanted to know from a common man's perspective, what is molecular biology?
Of course. So molecular biology, just basically what it is the study of molecules and how and what they do inside of our cells and inside of the cells of all of living things, basically. That's the study of molecular biology.
What are the applications of molecular biology? What applications are there in general?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So in our cells, right, we have so many things. We have we have DNA, we have proteins, we have carbohydrates. And when we study these, we understand different diseases, how they occur, how we can prevent them from occurring, how we can cure them, or we can even see different ways that people develop and all of that stuff and how we can help people basically. So there's a lot of health related things that are very useful in the field of molecular biology.
So as we are talking about the health, and in the recent year, just few years back, we had a pandemic which the whole world came to a still.
Yeah.
And we all know it as in COVID-19. So do you really think that pandemic, because there are lots of things goes around it, it was a man-made thing or such kind of things, you must have heard about it. So what are your take on that?
That's a good question. So I personally, because I'm a scientist, I don't think it was man-made. I do think that it just happened to originate in China. What they have said is it came from the close interaction of humans and animals, and it went from an animal to human, then spread to all of us. And what made COVID unique from other viruses is that it took 2 weeks for symptoms to show. And so because of that, so many people were sick, right? And in that 2 weeks, because they didn't even know themselves they were sick, they were infecting a lot of other people. That's why it spread the way it did, is because we didn't even know.
Just a follow-up question. You worked in a virology lab.
Yes.
So a lot of conspiracy theories goes around that COVID strain was made in a virology lab in Wuhan. What is your take on it? Was it actually, can it be actually made? Can a virus like this be actually made? Like
Yeah, viruses can be made. We make them all the time in the lab. I'm not saying they can't be made, but I personally don't think that's the case. However, I don't know. Like, I don't really have an answer to that question. But personally, I don't think so.
because see this bio warfare is a true thing.
That is a
Exactly.
thing.
That
I
was
agree.
that I was about to ask that only because a lot of people say that China used it as a weapon against the world, and a lot of people say that because of that, the China was less affected than the whole world was much more affected. So either they were having that cure for that beforehand because they knew about it, or they made it purposely so that it can affect and their economy can go beyond what they were.
That's fair. So I feel like a lot of people have a lot of fair points about this because bio warfare is a thing, 100%. However, how I see it is if you were going to make a biological weapon, why would you go with COVID? It's not like it kills a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but you can make something worse that actually 100% kills whoever it
You
affects.
could make
right?
a zombie virus.
What do you mean?
Zombie virus is a thing, right? It is a thing. You could make a zombie virus in a virology lab.
So zombie virus is a totally different thing. Basically, the zombie virus is a few months ago in the Siberian permafrost. Some scientists, because the earth is heating up, it's melting, right? So there's a bunch of viruses that were trapped in the ice, and these are over 50,000 years old. So none of us, if it ever infects us, we have any sort of immunity to these viruses because they're that old. But scientists isolated them and took them back to the lab. So people are now scared. They're like, oh, what if this virus gets out, causes another pandemic? But one thing we need to keep in mind is that these viruses don't infect people, they infect amoeba. So even if it does get out, you're going to be okay. It's not something that's infectious
Okay,
to
so
humans.
I just have a follow-up question
Yeah.
on this. When you talk about amoeba, we've heard cases of brain-eating amoebas,
Yes.
right? Now, if this permafrost virus affects an amoeba,
Mm-hmm.
and amoeba is apparently present in water, most of the water bodies, it is there, right?
Yeah.
What if it mutates the amoeba and it takes shape of a much more deadlier amoeba, something like a brain-eating amoeba? Isn't it a possibility?
I mean, in biology, everything's a possibility, so I can't say no. But typically, when something is infected, it's killed. So if amoeba is infected, it'll likely either be killed or it'll fight it off. So
Or
there's a
it'll
very
mutate.
low chance. But it can, yeah, absolutely. If that amoeba is in a person, then there is a way for the virus to be in the person, absolutely. But for that to happen, lots of these things have to happen in a place, right? So
There are a lot of
chance is low.
coincidences
Yeah.
which have to happen.
exactly. It can. I'm not saying it cannot, but
It is a possibility.
yes, but a low possibility. Like I don't want to scare anyone. being
1
like-
is 2 million maybe.
I don't know the numbers, but very low possibility.
You're being very safe, huh? You don't know the number. Being very safe.
So, Menka, actually, as we were talking about the zombies, so we have seen zombies more in the movies only, and it's a kind of fictional things only. But is it really possible to any extent that anything, something, or whatever it is? Because we have seen the COVID, and before COVID, no one ever thought that the world can come to an halt. So, since then, there are, as you said, that in biology everything is possible. So we can't say. So what is exactly a zombie, and till what extent this is like okay, this can happen or it's possible for, because a person who is dead completely,
Yeah.
and but that person is still kind of alive for like eating and whatever the thing is infecting other people. So is there any kind of possibilities for that as well?
So not that I know of from. I don't watch too many zombie things to be honest with you. But what I know is zombies are like undead. So they're like basically brain dead, but they're like, or everything else still works somehow, kind of. And they eat other people's brains, is what I know. From what I know, like that's not really something that we have seen.
It's more of a
as
fictional
yet.
character
It's
right
more
now.
of a fictional thing. And I don't see, because like, if your brain is dead, like how can your body move?
Exactly.
So that's why.
That's what my point is. Because if a person's, when we declare someone a brain dead completely, it means that person can't function.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how does that concept of zombies work? My point is that only.
That's a good question. I do not know.
Just
I
stemmed
wish
out
I
from
would.
fictional stories
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the art of movies.
Yeah.
It's just an art of books.
Or like with like AI developing feelings and stuff. Like it's
Right.
fiction. It's from books. So I don't actually know how to answer that question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, okay, let's talk about something else. Like in India, if we'll talk about that, we were talking about before you came, that inbreeding kind of thing. In India, there is a concept that in most of the religions, except few, that you cannot marry in your family or family lineage. If we go that, so what that concept is actually, and how does that affect a family or a child?
I'll just say we've read a lot of Western studies which suggest that inbreeding is a serious cause of disease in newly born kids. So, just from a science perspective, what is inbreeding, firstly,
Yeah.
and how does it affect newly born kids? Because in India, there are a lot of communities where you don't marry in your own lineage.
Yeah.
You look out for marriages outside the lineage, and then on the contrary, there are a lot of communities when inbreeding is a thing. So just to follow up on his question, what is inbreeding firstly, and how does it affect newly born kids, or there are a lot of disease, deformities going on? What is inbreeding?
Sure. So inbreeding is basically mating with somebody within your family, right? And that can be either directly someone related to you or like a cousin. That's what inbreeding basically is. And the reason that it's causing a lot of health complications in the kids is because when you mate with someone that's in your family, your genes are very similar. The reason why we try to mate outside the family is because you want someone that's different genetically to you, and that's beneficial for your kid. And I'll explain why. In our genes, we have a lot of them, but there's a lot of like hidden diseases even within ours, and they don't show up in us because they're suppressed by everything else. But in your family, they're gonna have the exact same diseases, right? So if you mate with someone in your family, there's a higher chance now of those showing up in your kids. And that's why it's not the best idea to do it. It's not that it'll affect you directly, but it'll affect your kid and your kid's kid and so forth. That's why even in the royal family, they are also known for inbreeding. They have a lot of blood disorders and stuff within the royal family, which is why I think even they've stopped it. I don't know exactly, but that's why it's not the best idea.
Then one shouldn't do cousin marriages in family breeding, or maybe in family marriages. One should avoid it.
So for health reasons, do not have kids, but I will not tell anyone what to do.
Okay. But yes, for health reasons, one shouldn't.
For health reasons, yes.
And what are the kind of disorders which kids face? If a kid is born out of such a marriage or a consummation?
There's a lot. Like, I don't know, like off the top of my head. Can I Google this quickly? Because I'm like, there's a lot. Like off the top of my head, like again, there's certain blood disorders that they could have. There's intellectual disorders that they can also have. I think children of inbreeding are usually intellectually lower than kids that are not born through inbreeding. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but that's off the top of my head what I can remember from
Something like
inbreeding.
dyslexia, maybe?
I mean, dyslexia too, but like we don't have a genetic cause for dyslexia yet, so I don't want to specifically say.
Name it.
But their like IQ and stuff is lower typically than kids that are not born via inbreeding.
And since you've done a lot of research in brain tumors and sarcoma, can you just break it down? What is a tumor? Why is it so rampant
Yeah.
these days?
Yeah.
India is one of the hubs of cancer these days.
Oh,
A lot of heart diseases, a lot of cancer. India is also one of
And in the
those.
recent years, it's coming more.
Okay.
The symptoms and the people and the cases are showing up more.
Mhm.
So, what are the reasons behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, I totally cut you off. I'm so
No,
sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. You can continue.
So cancer is basically, how do I put this that I understand? Okay, so our cells, every single one of our cells, in order to be healthy, it divides and grows. So one cell will become two, then two become four, and they continue growing. Then eventually it will die. All of our cells do that. It's very normal. But what a cancer cell does is it just continues to divide and divide and divide, and it doesn't die. And that, all those cells kind of form a clump and they become a tumor. And then what they do is all of your like blood is supplied now to that tumor because it brings in everything and makes your body feed it basically. And then it starts growing and starts causing problems. So that's where the tumor comes from. What was your other question? Why is it very rampant? There's a lot of reasons for that too. A lot of it is just like direct sunlight. UV rays can cause DNA breakage. That is what basically causes cancer, is some sort of genetic mutation, or mutations will cause the cancer. So there's lots of things we're consuming and things like that that are causing this. That's why
Does the
a lot more
food
people,
habits of a person also?
it can, like, so many things can, right? But I also can't be like, if you're 100% healthy, you will not get cancer, because it is also due to chance. As I said, our cells divide all the time, right? Sometimes it's not perfect. Sometimes there's a mistake, and that mistake can also cause cancer.
The recent studies I was reading about it, and there's a term which I came to know about it. There's a term which is known as water fasting kind of thing. So
Water fasting, okay.
yeah, so it was. I just read about it. So the research was saying that a person is on a water fast for a week. So even the cancer cells, they die inside the
Okay.
person. So is it kind of thing? Because I read a lot about it, and it was more of the person, the our liver had that much stronger power that
Okay.
it consumes all those cells as well. So is it?
Honest, water fasting is just drinking water and not eating anything, right? Okay. Just want to make sure
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
was. I haven't read the paper, so I don't exactly know. I haven't heard this. Is our body capable of taking down the cells? Absolutely. But cancer cells are very tricky and they're very smart. So they're able to kind of use our own cells and direct them back into our body and be like, no, we're not bad. Don't attack us. So I don't actually know because I
Because
haven't read the paper.
in India there was a person known as
Rajiv Dixit.
Rajiv Dixit, and I saw some of his videos, and he also said few things like that. Even the doctors, they have that cure of this cancer with them, and but they are not showing.
What he's saying, it's a big pharma conspiracy.
Exactly.
Oh,
They have cure for cancer for the last 30, 40 years maybe, and they've not let the cure out because they are making trillions of dollars just by selling curative medicines. Not curative, precautionary medicine, or maybe post-disease medication.
like treatments, basically.
Like treatments,
So
because
what
they make money out
What
of
he
it.
used to say, that our Ayurveda
Yeah.
or it has the cure of this cancer from very long time. So I just wanted to ask, is it a thing or
What's the
what?
theory like? I mean, why do big pharmas are not letting out the cure and all?
Okay. There's a lot of questions here. I will answer the big pharma one first, then Ayurveda.
Okay.
Okay, so I've heard this big pharma one too, and I believed in it until I learned about molecular biology and genetics. And the reason why I'll tell you that it's not true is because of the way cancer works. So I told you that it happens because of genetic mutations, right? So there are many combinations of mutations that can happen that will form a certain cancer. So my cancer and your cancer can both be brain tumor, okay?
Okay.
But your brain tumor will be different than my brain tumor.
Okay.
Because the genetics are different between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so the treatment that works for you might not work for me, and the treatment that works for me might not work for you, but it's the same cancer. So that's why you can't have one cure for everybody, because they have a different reason why they have that cancer. So everyone's cancer is kind of unique to them. And when something is unique, you can't have one cure for everything, right? And also, when they do develop a treatment and it starts reducing the cancer cells, unfortunately, they have a tendency to survive. And they sometimes are able to come back and just be a whole other mutation, and then this thing stops working. So that's why instead of cures, a lot of people are going for prevention. So they're like, oh, don't smoke, don't do these things, so that you are preventing yourselves from getting cancer rather than dealing with it once you have it, if that makes sense.
So big pharmas are not hiding anything?
No, 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 no.
If
I
we
mean,
look
they
at-
make money, don't get me wrong. Capitalism is a problem, but there's no cure for cancer for that reason. Of everyone's cancer is unique.
And what about that Ayurveda thing?
So Ayurveda, from what I know, it's been like studied for thousands of years, right? So I definitely do believe in a lot of its medicinal properties and a lot of things it does, because that's what science is. You study things, you see how they work, and it works. So if it's been studied for thousands of years, I am not going against that much research and data. It makes sense. Can it cure cancer? I don't know. I haven't seen any studies, but if there are any papers, I will definitely read them. But from what I know of Ayurveda is it takes time. That's what everybody's told me. Like, it's not like a drug that works immediately. It's you have to be taking it for a number of years sometimes for it to work. That's what I've been told. But it probably could work.
So it has the potential to cure cancer, right?
It could.
It could be potentially, it'll help you cure or maybe prevent cancer altogether.
Probably could. Like, I don't know, but it probably could.
Because what we've understood in India, Ayurveda is not just about medicines, it's a way of life as well. The time you eat, what time you
Yes.
sleep, when you wake up, what all exercises you do, breath work, whatever you do. So Ayurveda basically teaches you an art of living, right? That's what we've read by far. So yes, maybe it could potentially cure cancer
No,
as well.
it potentially could. Like, everything is also to do with your mind, right? You guys have heard of the placebo effect?
Yes.
Where if you think you're being cured, then sometimes you actually are cured.
This is very interesting. So I've read a lot of papers where placebo effect made people even cure critical diseases like cancer, right? They give you placebo medicine, or there's a cure for cancer, right?
Yeah.
Mentally you keep thinking about, oh, that's a cure for cancer, and apparently people have cured cancer just by the placebo effect.
Yep.
What you just said, placebo effect is a thing. Just elaborate a bit more, yaar.
Yeah, so our brains are so powerful. Like, if we think something and we truly believe in it, our body will do it. You talked about cancer, but there's an actual study where they took two groups of people, okay, who had like amnesia. So in one group, they put the clock to 12 and they gave them food. Then they all ate the food. And then they had their amnesia, they forgot that they had the food. Then they put the clock back to 12 and gave them another meal. And all these people, no, this is not the study, sorry. Let me tell you the actual study. The actual study was a weight loss study where they had two groups of people. And for one group, they gave them this weight loss drug. And the other group, they gave them the placebo drug. And both the groups were told, do your normal thing, no exercise, whatever, eat whatever you want. The only thing that's different is you're taking this drug. So people in the actual drug group lost weight, but people in the placebo group also lost weight because they thought that they were getting this drug, and they lost a lot of weight. And that's why I always say, like, the power of your mind matters. So as you said, Ayurveda is a state of mind, basically. So if you believe that you're doing this and you'll be healthy and you won't get cancer, you probably won't.
So like
because
what you just
believe
said
it.
about water fasting, it could also be,
It could be that
it could just be a placebo
Yeah.
effect where you tune your body, brain mentally that listen, you got to cure this, you got
Yes.
to kill all the cancer cells. So it's also a study of maybe a placebo effect.
It could be. It could be. Because your brain is that powerful.
So Menka, what is this GMO thing and what is the hype about this GMO?
Absolutely. So GMO basically means genetically modified organism. So basically what a scientist does is they will somehow alter the genes of some organism and modify it. And we've been doing this for decades, okay? So it's not something new, but it's something a lot of people are kind of scared of because a lot of the foods that we eat are genetically modified. And that's why people are scared of eating them because they're like, oh, what if I eat this and it goes into my cells and does something and makes me have a mutation? Which is fair. I understand that if you don't understand what GMO means, but there's a lot of positives about GMOs. So as you know, our world is going through like a water crisis, right? Some places don't have enough water. So people have actually genetically made plants that only need about 10% of the water that they normally need. So now these things can grow with much less water and conserve the water that we have. And these plants grow fine and they taste fine. There's nothing really different about them. And when you consume them, you will be fine. Because when we eat things, we don't turn into the things we eat. So typically GMOs are safe to eat. But that's the whole controversy. People don't like that term of, oh, this has been genetically modified. I don't want to eat this.
Why people are against it? Because whole the world is completely against it. Only the scientists are saying that
Yes.
it is okay to have it, but everyone is against it. Why is that?
I think that's what it is. It's just the term genetically modified is kind of scary, right? Like if you see something that says, oh, genetically modified, then you're kind of like, why is it genetically modified? Should I eat this? Is this safe to eat? Which is fair. Like, why would they want it genetically modified? But as I said, genetically modified is not bad. It just means that they've slightly changed it in order for it to grow or for whatever reasons, and it's still safe to eat. But people are scared because it just says genetically modified. That's
But
the only thing.
just a follow-up question on this.
Yeah.
Isn't it a good thing that you are making plants of different modifications which need much lesser water? So let's say if I talk about a Sahara desert or maybe something in the Middle East, they can grow their own crops, and
Yeah.
maybe with 1/10 of water usage, it is a very good alternative for farming.
It is.
If you talk about proper farming, isn't it a good alternative?
100%. And other ways to genetically modify things is you can genetically modify like a certain bacteria. It can clean up an oil spill. That's not a bad thing. You're making it do something good, right? And with back to farming is there's another plant that was being, some sort of pest was eating it. So they genetically modified it so that that pest could not eat it anymore. And then those crops grew. It's still a genetically modified thing, but whatever modifications they made is not going to affect us in any way.
When we talk about these oil spills, it is a very rampant issue on sea trade routes. And when we talk about GMOs which help clean an oil spill, it is a very good thing for sea life. It conserves a lot of sea life which may just die because of the oil spill. So
Yeah.
why are people still kind of against it when it does such good things?
I think they're against it when they consume it. Like if it's cleaning up oil spills, I feel like people will be like, oh, great, GMOs. But when they have to eat it themselves, they're like, oh, GMOs. So I don't know if it's a big thing here, but it is a very big thing back in North America. Anytime I bring up GMOs, I get a lot of eyebrow raises, and people typically prefer non-GMO or, oh, this is organically grown because organic is supposed to be better, which is not always the case. GMOs are not a bad thing at all.
So, Menka, one more thing, as you are a molecular biology scientist, and so I just want to know, and since childhood we have seen movies about cloning. So please first tell me what is cloning exactly, and then I'll give you the follow-up questions
Sure.
about that.
So cloning is basically just making an identical copy of something. That is what cloning means.
Till what extent it's possible that we can make a clone of a human or whatever species? If there are like lots of extinct species right now in the world, so is it possible that we can clone them as well?
Honestly, like right now, I don't 100% know, but we did clone a sheep back in the 70s, right? That's almost 50 years ago. So there are surely a lot of things that you can clone. We've cloned a lot of other animals. I don't think there have been any human cloning experiments yet, but could we clone them? Probably. We possibly could do it. I don't see why not.
So you are saying that ultra rich can do that?
Oh, I'm saying that Jurassic Park is possible. I'm kidding.
Jurassic Park is possible, right?
I mean,
Because we've seen Jurassic Park since kid days, and I just read a paper about this woolly mammoth being cloned, and the womb which is used for cloning is an Indian elephant,
Yes.
which is a very distant relative of woolly mammoth. But yes, it is a possibility to get the actual Jurassic Park back, right?
So I feel like it could be a possibility. However, I don't know if we would do it just because it's dinosaurs. And we are not apex predators when it comes to dinosaurs. So I don't know if we would do it, but could we? Yeah, possibly. With all the technology we have, we possibly could. And if we could bring back the woolly mammoth, why not? Bring back the
So
dinosaurs.
is it possible that through cloning we can get the memories and conscious of that person or that whatever the animal or whatever we are doing? Can we
So-
bring that back as well?
That's a good question because we still don't exactly know what consciousness means yet. If you actually ask any sort of brain scientist or even psychologist, they cannot define that for you. So currently, because we don't know what it is and how it works, when you do clone something, it doesn't have its memories or whatever. It's just a direct copy. It's its own thing. It's going to make its own memories, but it doesn't remember from what we know of its original host.
So from cloning, I'll just follow up on his
Go
question
for it.
once.
Yeah.
Is it a possibility to clone humans? Is it a possibility? Because there are a lot of conspiracy theories that the super rich can get their clones and maybe, just fine tune them. Maybe just get their doppelgangers. It is a possibility.
Honestly, probably could. As I said, we've cloned animals. We clone for scientists, cloning isn't a big deal. Like
You've
I've
cloned a
cloned
bacteria.
Yeah, I've done cloning a lot, so it's not a big deal for us. So yeah, probably they could. There's nothing saying they can't. They probably could.
So
I
probably
don't know,
some
they
rich
probably
guy
could.
can come up to your office and tell you, okay, just
Yeah,
make a clone for
probably
me.
Jeff Bezos can be like, I want to live forever, make 10 clones of me.
And you might just do
yeah,
it,
he
right?
might just do it. He has so much money.
Right? So he's going to just fund your research and project and you'll just make 10 clones out of him, 10 doppelgangers of Jeff Bezos.
Exactly. Why
Maybe
not?
Elon Musk for that
Maybe
matter.
Elon Musk. You never
Right?
know.
That is a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Like cloning humans, I don't know if it's a possibility now, but definitely in the future
So
probably
Badal?
will be.
When you're there, the super rich dudes,
Yeah, absolutely.
हम अपनी cloning कराएंगे.
And we'll go to.
अरे हम और ही बनेंगे यार, हम अपने 4-5 क्लोन और ही की तरह रख लेंगे.
Exactly.
हमारे
Clone
भी clones होंगे.
bodyguards, everything. Like, you don't need anybody else.
Exactly.
So coming back from cloning, jumping to another topic of genetics, you've done your research, studies in genetics. There's this very rampant issue about the genetics in India, which is the famous Indian pot belly. Can you just tell me what is this Indian pot belly? How did it, what is the hypothetical reason why it came into existence?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we realize as South Asian people is that when it comes to working out, it's easy to lose weight and build muscle everywhere else except the belly. We just have a belly and it's very hard to lose weight here and it's very hard to build muscle there. And so recently there was a paper that came out and they are thinking that this is because of British colonialization. And what they think is that our ancestors, when the British colonized, they were starved. Like there was a lot of famine going around. And because they were starved, their bodies kind of went into this like saving mode of anytime they got food, they would try to save that food. So because their bodies were like that, we inherited those kind of genes. So now when we eat, our body's like, no, I gotta keep this food. And because of that reason, it's harder for us to lose weight because our body is basically thinking that we're always in a famine. So it wants to hoard any of the food that we eat. So that's why they think that we have this pot belly problem, is because of British colonialization. Again, there's no way to test for this, but that's what they think.
The next time I'm not able to lose my belly fat, I'm going to blame the British for it.
Why not?
It's because of the Britishers. I'm not able to lose my weight.
Best excuse ever.
है ना?
Yes, it's not lack of exercise or diet, it's the British.
British.
It's the
It's the
British.
British.
Yeah, best
Brits.
excuse ever.
Oh, it's the Brits who don't let me lose my weight. Right? Just a while back, we spoke about getting back the Jurassic Park. Just very hypothetically, climate is changing and it's changing very rapidly. It's a very serious concern these days. Permafrost is melting. Maybe viruses and bacteria which have been there for the last maybe 50 million years, maybe 100 million years, or maybe just at the time of dinosaurs, it is still there and it is in a dormant state, right? What if those viruses come back? Maybe cause some mutations, viruses don't die, they might just come back, they're a zombie. What do you think what is a serious concern about climate change, permafrost melting? and majorly these viruses coming back to life?
So all of those are concerns. There's a bunch of topics there. So permafrost and the viruses melting, definitely, like as you said, there are viruses trapped in it. Any bacteria likely would have died. But viruses, as you said, they're dormant. So if they come and they infect somebody, they can easily grow. I think one thing that we can take as a positive is that if they were alive during the time of the dinosaurs, I think from what we know, no humans were around at that time. So they likely only infected dinosaurs. So there's a lower chance that they will infect humans. Now, can they mutate and infect us? Probably. But there is serious concern. We should not have that ice melting. And that more serious concern is climate
But
change.
it is also possible na ki because of them the dinosaurs extinct from this world.
They totally could have, yeah.
But they can do that to humans as well.
They totally could, but the way viruses work is they're very specific. So it either infects a human or infects a pig or whatever. Some can infect more than one, but if it's specific to one thing, then it like a human virus will not infect a chicken, and a chicken virus will not infect a human. So that's the one solace is if it only infected dinosaurs, there's a lower chance it will infect us. Can it? Maybe, but it's a lower chance.
We shouldn't be worried. What if we should
It
be
could
worried?
be. So the thing is, we should more so be worried about the ice levels going down because there is a chance. However small, there is a chance. Even with COVID, was a small chance that we had a pandemic. Okay, but we had one, and we as like the Earth, we have all these provisions in place to make sure a pandemic doesn't happen, but it still did. Which is why even if things are a small chance, we should still be preventative, right? There's a small chance that this could happen. So the bigger issue is climate change. And we should be doing a lot of things in order to prevent the ice from melting further and letting these different viruses out.
भाई ये साइंटिस्ट ना हर चीज में डिप्लोमेटिक होते हैं
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ,
ये
हाँ।
सच बताते ही नहीं कि हमें डरना चाहिए
या नहीं डरना चाहिए।
नहीं डरना चाहिए दे आर ऑलवेज लाइक हो सकता है ये भी हो सकता है ये भी हो सकता
So
है
his concern is very right. You as a scientist, you'll either say yes or you'll say no. Maybe, maybe not, maybe yes. But then there's no certainty until unless you've read a paper or done a research. Why are scientists so conservative in their approach?
So the thing with science, especially biology, I won't talk for other disciplines, is there's always an exception to every rule, okay? If you're a biologist, ask any student. They will always be like, okay, this is the rule, and this is what everything follows, except this guy. This guy does something a little different. So because there's all these exceptions, we can never with certainty be like, this is what's gonna happen. There's so many possibilities. And because we cannot anytime, like no scientist will ever tell you this is 100% gonna happen because that's just not the case. Nothing is 100%. Even in papers, you will never see someone report, oh, 100% that this is, they'll be like, there's a 99.9% chance. Because there's always that 1% chance it will not happen.
But we trust you people yaar
You're right. That's why.
at least give us some surety कि okay we won't let you go through this
That's true. The surety we can give you is that the research shows us that it's a low chance or a high chance, right? Like even with, for example, smoking, you will never hear an actual scientist say, smoking causes cancer, because that means anybody who just smokes, even just once, will get cancer. And that's not the case, right? Anybody can get cancer. But what they can say is if you smoke, there's a higher chance you will get cancer. And that's why we can't answer in absolutes. We have to be in the middle and be like, yes, it can. Maybe it cannot. That's why we answer the way we do.
so it's about the vaccine as well.
Wait, what's your question with the vaccine?
I mean to say कि like scientists do all the research and they give us like okay this is the vaccine or this is the medication for a particular disease. So scientists are 100% sure about those. Yeah, they are also going like okay it can, it cannot.
So that also is like they're giving you a percentage of how often, like how effective it is, right?
Okay.
So yeah, there's some people that will take the medicine, it doesn't work for them. And that'll be in it. That's why they will never say, oh, this medicine is 100% effective. They will be like, it is 95%. Even with the COVID vaccine, when you took the first booster, they said it's 80%. Second booster, it was 95%. There's still that 5% chance that you can get sick. but that's just how it is. But when it comes to humans, they make sure not to do harm. So it's not like if you take it, you will you will die. Some people have. I'm not saying like vaccines are 100% safe, but they're like 99.999%
Okay,
safe.
I have one more question about this. As you were talking about the COVID vaccine, usually scientists do, as you said, that scientists do a lot of research when they go for anything conclusive or whatever it is. But we had the COVID, and there were like lot of pharmaceutical companies. They came like with the medication within your vaccines within few months. So they didn't do the research, proper research, if I'll say, and they just came up with the vaccine. Ki, okay, we are the first one to launch this vaccine. So is it possible that because of those vaccines, a person can get like any kind of disease or other than COVID?
Could there be reactions to
No, of
having the
course, there can
vaccine?
definitely be reactions. So the first thing I'll say is, when it came to the research, we do have, so COVID is like a family, right? So we have research on other like coronaviruses. So they pretty much used the research we already have and then studied this new vaccine. So it's not like they understudied it. And then when it came to producing the vaccine, we have so many other vaccines that we already use. So, and because at the time the world was in a pandemic, all the money was going towards scientists to create some sort of vaccine. They were able to work together and create this. Now, could they test it as they usually do? No, and that is true. They did have to make it a lot quicker, but that's because at the times the government was like, you know, it's more important that we save people than, you know, spend 3-4 years testing this vaccine. But in a normal case, yes, it would have been tested for years before it's given to people.
Yeah, that's exactly my point, because when the scientists go for something conclusive, they do the research for years.
Yes.
And in this case, it was opposite of that. They just came with, like, they had a time frame and they had to do it within that time
Exactly.
frame.
It's an emergency situation.
Exactly,
So, yeah.
my point is, so I just wanted to ask ki, what are the reactions could be possible for that?
So,
Because recently we are having a lot of heart failures in India.
So after the COVID, there has been a serious spike of heart attacks in India. A very serious spike in heart attacks, heart failures, heart attacks, heart-related diseases. So what me and Badal, we were just talking off record, off the camera, that maybe it could be because of COVID, maybe it could be because of a COVID strain, maybe it could be because of a vaccine.
yeah, I mean, it's, so when it comes to the long-term effects, it's hard to say right now because we've only had the vaccine for 3 years, right? So technically we're the guinea pigs. They're going to see long term what happens to us. So there's not much you can say about that because there's no study and because they're so new. You don't know what the long term effects are. But theoretically, there shouldn't be any. And in terms of the spike, it could be due to a lot of things. We don't know if those people had COVID. We don't know what other underlying things they had. From what I know, like South Asian people in general, we have a higher rate of heart-related problems in general. So that could be it too. Vaccines could have played a role. So have you heard of long COVID? Because long COVID also has a lot of symptoms in people.
What is long COVID like?
So some people have, like, I don't know if you guys ever had COVID. I had COVID twice. But after having it, I recovered. I was fine. But there are people that have had COVID in 2020, and since then they've recovered from the disease, but they still have symptoms, and they still continue to live with that to this day. So that's what we call long COVID.
Even after 2.5 years?
That's what they're currently studying, is like all the long-term effects of COVID, because we don't know that yet.
After having the vaccine as well, they are still having that COVID
No, well,
symptoms.
they still have a lot of it. So a lot of things, like their sleeplessness, like there's a study that showed that people that have had COVID do not get enough, like they can't sleep. And that's an actual study that they did. I made a whole TikTok about it. So there's a lot of different things that people are experiencing, and they're just testing it now. Since we recently got out of COVID, you can test it now.
Because she's right. I've just read a paper about it. In India, after COVID, a lot of people had this sleeplessness issue, and they've been opting for BiPAP machines.
Oh.
So they take BiPAP machines during night so that they're oxygenated the right way and they are able to sleep better. So that's an actual thing that people have their sleep cycles disrupted
Yes.
because of COVID.
And it's
And
been like that for like 3 years.
It's been like that for 3 years. And a healthy person should normally sleep for about 7 to 8 hours. People who had this long COVID, they're sleeping only for about 3-4 hours, a constant steady sleep. So from 8 hours to about 3-4 hours, that's also a serious concern.
Yeah.
Right, so it could be a possibility that it may be because of the vaccine, maybe because of a corona strain, maybe because of generic underlying issues which
Yeah.
got highlighted because of the COVID.
It could be. Like honestly, every single strain of COVID has been slightly different. Like like the very first strain was bad. Like lots of people died, but I think the later strains were slightly more mild. Like people were recovering more. So yeah, it could definitely be that too.
Actually,
Well, on this note, we'll
thank
end
you
our
so
today's
much,
podcast.
Menka, yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for taking out time for us.
Next time when you come on this podcast,
Yes.
please kuch
In Canada.
Ah.
Next time.
Next
this is
time
in
it's
next
in
time
Canada.
we'll do it in
You
Canada.
made time for us all the way from Canada. Next time we're going to go to Canada for a podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
For sure.
absolutely.
And next time, no more safe answers.
Huh,
yeah?
exactly. Please.
Not a
Hopefully I'm more controversial next time.
no more scientific answers.
Okay,
Yeah?
fine. I will try.
Okay.
All right, signing out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.